Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Hey guys, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we are about to fill it up. You know what time it is. Hey, welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey guys, if it's your first time to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Down below, we'll have our banner with all of our social medias at their various platforms. Be sure and check those out. That would be much, much appreciated. Hey, if you listen on Apple or Spotify, hey, I know up front the ads suck, but for $4 a month, you can skip the ads and get an ad-free listening experience. Hey, before we get into the show, I got a quick shout out to the Soul Squatch. You see this new hat I'm sporting? They hooked me up with this hat, man, and I got to tell you up front, I am a hat snob. I'm very picky with my hats. But I actually love this hat, dude. It's stylish looking, and it's also got the fishnet breathability fabric in the back. So it's really comfortable, dude. I really like this stuff. But be sure to check those guys out. But hey, with all that out of the way, hey, this is a long overdue conversation with my brothers from my other mothers. We got to hang out down in Florida at Bohemian Grove. We shared an Airbnb together and had just a killer weekend. But I'd like to welcome to the show for the first time, and I know this will be the first of many, the Biblical Hitman. What's going on, guys?
What's up, Doc? Thanks for having us on, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Well, hey, man, just for those that have been living under a rock, or maybe they're new to my show and haven't heard me talk about you or seen some of our collaborations, just go ahead and let everybody know a little bit about you guys, what you do, and give the audience a feel.
Yeah. So my name's Steven, host of the Biblical Hitman. I'm joined by my other two brothers from another mother, Jesse and Taylor. These guys are just as much of a part of the show just as I am. So you can find us, the Biblical Hitman, YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, all of the social media platforms, pretty much where you can consume all your content. You can also find us on audio platforms as well, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And, when you go over to the audio side of things, we deeply appreciate a 5-star review and follow and notification bell, all that kind of stuff. So you can be in tune whenever we do release content and all that. But a little bit about myself. I'm a career fireman in the Central Florida area, and do the podcast on the side. And I'm a husband. I have a daughter, a beautiful wife, just a simple man. Not really a simple guy, more of like a simple conspiracy guy. But with our show, we cover things, all kinds of things, political. We get into biblical stories. We get into supernatural stories. We get into a lot of different things. We really cover everything. But the main thing that we do hold to our show is we cover things through a biblical lens. We've been influenced by many shows to get off our behind and to start creating content and start using our voices to reach others out there. And especially you, bro, you've been a big inspiration to us in this show. The Biblical Hitman. I can remember still to this day, Jesse was sending me one of your episodes you did on Tinfoil Hat podcast and getting into the Esau talk, right? And it struck something in me to just, it gave me a drive to really just, hey, there's more to the Bible than we really think, than we're really taught, than tradition really, keeps us corralled in a way. But that's pretty much it. It's pretty much about our show. But yeah.
Yeah, Doc. Thank you, brother, for having us. My name's Jesse. I'm a residential plumber here in Las Vegas. I'm a father as well, 2 little boys, and a regular guy, just like Stevie said. Not so regular, but I'm a regular guy. We're out here doing the podcast thing on the side, and it's really becoming a full-time job, and we're taking it seriously. And it's the fruits of our labor. It's starting to pay off a little bit, and we're seeing a lot of traction. And linking up with people like you, Doc, and I really, we had a blast, by the way, bro. Like the moment I saw Doc at the Airbnb, it was just a full-on, like several hour conversation. It didn't end. It was just like, boom, got right into it. But anyways, brother, thank you for having us, and I'm excited for this show.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, I guess one thing I do want to give a little bit more background. How did you guys get into this? How did you meet? Are you childhood friends that just stuck together throughout the years, or how did you guys meet and come up with this? And how did you come up with the name for the show, the Biblical Hitman?
It's kind of funny you asked that because originally we had a podcast before this, and we didn't take it as serious as we do now. But the podcast we had before this was called Remnant Warriors Podcast. And it was something that we all came together in a way where Jesse's been my best friend since birth, pretty much. Our moms grew up together. They've been best friends for 40 years. And so we've known each other. Taylor came into the mix of things because me and Jesse, before Remnant Warriors Podcast, we were a part of more of a secular podcast, but talking about conspiracies and getting into the interesting concepts out there and all that. We were a part of a network, and that network was called Punk Farm Media, and Taylor actually had his podcast as a part of that network. And when we were collabing with the different creators that were a part of the network, me and Taylor hit it off, right? So I've been a Christian for 15, 16 years, and when he started talking about fallen angels, he started talking about the biblical lens of certain things. It really grasped my roots, and so we hit it off, and next thing led to another, where me and Jesse left the secular podcast that we were a part of, and us three, we kind of came together as Remnant Warriors Podcast. But then there was another change, another evolution of the product. And I was like, hey guys, we're going to take this seriously. We're going to come in hot, and we're going to push the bar on this, but we're going to rebrand ourselves as well. And we're going to call ourselves the Biblical Hitman. Jesse loved it.
Loved it. I was at a gas station working that day. He called me and I was like, what? I'm like, dude, this is awesome. What a great name, bro. I'm like, yeah. I don't care. And he thought about it and rethought it over a couple times. And I'm like, I'm not letting you drop this name. It's not happening. It's way too catchy, bro.
Yeah. And really the whole kind of the idea behind the Biblical Hitman, if you look at the logo, not only do you see Taylor looking like the Hitman, Agent 52, or whatever the agent is from the video game, 47, right? Plus all the tattoos on his face. Got to love that. If you look in the background, there's a UFO crashing. There's a fallen angel descending from the heavens. There on the logo, cryptid, right? Yeah, on the logo. Yeah. There's cryptids. There's robots. It seems to be like a dystopian time that's going on in the background. But you see us three biblical hitmen with weapons, right? Which is kind of in allegory of the Word of God, right? The Word of God is a sword, and it divides the truth from the lies. And so with that, that's really kind of how that name kind of came in, because there's so many narratives out there. There's just a surplus of narratives out there that are not only pulling people into a deception that we believe, not only seducing them as well, but in the end, we believe it's against God. So in a way, we are fighting those narratives, and right. If that makes any sense.
And about the logo too. So Taylor's Agent 47. Stevie is from the Book of Eli, so he's dressed up like Denzel Washington in the Book of Eli.
Yeah.
And I am John Wick. Thank you for giving me that role, because that is my favorite guy. But about like where I was doing MMA content while they were doing Remnant Warriors. So we broke off with DeWiseman, and during DeWiseman, I was trying to do MMA content and cover MMA content, and I was like thinking I was going to take it serious and go into it, you know, and get a stage pass and go to the weigh-ins and then cover MMA. And there was just something off about it. It's a hard gig, first of all, to keep up with all the MMA stuff, and it includes boxing, all of the combat sports. But it just something about being a part of the Roman circus. You know, I knew I was kind of doing that, and I'm like, then Stevie kind of reels me in, you know, with this podcast, and I was like the first 3 guests. I was like the first guest on the show of Remnant Warriors, and then I was just there so much. They're like, Stevie texts me like, you know what? Can you just be a part of it? Just come on. You know, I know you're not really, biblically sound, but you'll learn. And I'm learning a lot through you guys, Doc. I listened to, like Stevie said, the tinfoil hat show when you broke down the Epic of Esau, and it blew my mind because I'd never heard anything like that before. So yeah, that's pretty much our whole backstory to how we got here.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Everybody has their story, and I like to hear them, because a lot of people, collaborators, they get together and other podcasters and they collaborate. They just kind of get into the meat, but I like to hear everybody's story, how they got started, because everybody has a different story, and some of them are pretty wild. And what's funny, I'll share this before we get into the meat of the matter. When I first met Stephen, it was on TikTok. And he reached out and started messaging me, and we were kind of talking back and forth. And he was talking about shadow banning, and how he thinks his page was being shadow banned. And Jesse, don't get mad at me, but I threw it at him that he might need to change the name. I was like, hey man, I love your name. I was like, but I said a lot of these social media platforms are run by hard wing leftists, and if you've got a name like has Hitmen in it, I said, they might be shadow banning you because of your name, bro.
Right. No, it makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe if I changed it to more of a pop culture cool thing, I can't say it because of YouTube purposes, but maybe you can have some ideas of what I'm thinking. But yeah, with the day to day, especially our current time, it's we're walking on eggshells, it seems like. But I do think a big part of standing your ground is to grow an audience that cares about you, cares about your content, and will be there for you, supporters, right? And that's why I like to refer to my audience as supporters, because in the end of it, that is why we keep going. If our views ended up to drop down to 10 views, 5 views, 1 view, it's discouraging, right? It's naturally makes you think, is this worth it? I'm out here, I'm grinding, putting the time into it, putting the effort. A lot of work comes into this stuff. Is it worth it? But in the end, when you do everything for God, you do everything for Him. You put all your works onto Him. It doesn't matter even if you're an employee working for an employer, right? You still work for Him. You're going to still be successful no matter what, in my opinion.
Well, that's awesome. Well, guys, I know we're going to dive into some subject matter that's kind of with the times right now, especially. But you guys wanted to dive into the beast system, the mark of the beast, AI and end times. And so this is something that it perked my ears when you said you guys wanted to dive into this. And Stephen, you said this is something that you've been diving into for the past 2 years, and Jesse's been geeking out, he said today, looking up all kinds of stuff. So I'm excited for today's conversation.
I told him he would. I told him you start going down this rabbit hole, you're going to use Google for 15 hours a day. Okay. Yeah. And Google's going to tell you some interesting things. We know that Google today is more AI than anything, right? It puts out a suggested list depending on who pays for the amounts that they do to Microsoft and Google or whatever. But it's interesting when AI is kind of exposing themselves with all this stuff, because in a way, I think they have to tell you the truth, right? For these things to happen and for themselves to be successful. But you had a gentleman on your show. You actually sent me the episode that you guys did, Jacob Nordengard. Awesome episode, by the way, folks. If you haven't checked that one out, go back in the Prometheus Lens list of podcasts and go take a listen to that one, because a lot of the things
Jacob's smart, man. That accent, that's the cherry on top. I love his accent.
It is, and he talks nice and fluent and slow, so you can.
Does he have a British accent? You know. Is that what it is?
No, okay. I don't know what.
No, he's from Sweden.
Sweden. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. It's like almost French.
I kept calling him Jacob, but he referred to himself as Jacob. So I guess over there they substitute their J's with Y's.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so his book, right? Temple of what was it? Solomon's Temple, right?
Yep. Temple of Solomon.
Yeah, and it gets into Tower of Babel kind of type stuff and all of that, and really. Kind of the foundation that got me to push more towards this topic is the Bible, right? It's the interesting stories of the Bible that I don't think a lot of churches cover, but it's more or less it's what happened in the Antediluvian periods. It's what happened in other areas in Genesis, and it's basically that. What was the world like in the Antediluvian period, right? Pre-flood period. Well, you had Satan cause the fall of man. They're casted out. They're starting cities on their own, right? Cain's got his lineage, right? And so you have a bloodline. You've got a bloodline war. You got a seed war going on. And the world was destroyed, right? It was destroyed by water. It was destroyed by a flood. And this is where you've got the mystical stories of Atlantis and the fact that there was like this one empire that ran the world, right? It was broken down into multiple kingdoms, but there was still like this one empire that really ran the world. And I always compare this to like the hive mind concept. You've got the queen of the hive, and everything kind of stems from the queen, right? And we can kind of see that today with America and the other countries in the world. Who is at the top of that world order of things? Forgive me, that's my daughter in the background. But anyways, and then after the flood, right? After the flood, you had the Tower of Babel, right? You had Nimrod. You had someone who was trying to bring back the old world that his grandfather used to talk about, pretty much. Right. And it's interesting because when you look at that story, Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, they had one language, and pretty much they had one way to communicate. And when you look at the hive mind concept, that's really how, bees communicate, but they communicate necessarily by pheromones and other types of ways, frequencies, and so on and so forth. But it really all stems from one leader, right? And you get into the Revelation, you get into the book of Daniel, you get into Matthew 24, and we see this kind of concept of the Antichrist, right? So we see that the Antichrist is going to be this ruler who rules the world, governs the nations and governs the kingdoms, and that he's in control of it all. And breaking all of that down, you go, well, what else is a part of this Antichrist system, this beast system, right? You got the 7 heads, the 10 horns. What is another part of this? Well, when you read into Revelation 13, you get into verses 16, 17, and so on. It represents a mark of the beast, right? And it talks about a mark of a beast. And so what I've been doing and what I've been very interested in, even since I've gotten saved, is the mark of the beast. What is the mark of the beast? And what characteristics is it going to hold? And what can I find in my day and today to go, yep, that's something that's as closest to it. And so digging into this topic, we're going to talk about a concept, a piece of technology that we think holds the closest understanding of maybe a possible mark of the beast. And I don't know if it is it. And again, I don't mean to be, if this podcast comes off to anyone dark or negative, just understand it is, right? And we can't really escape that, but we can have a positive attitude towards it. And there's always light at the end of the tunnel with all of these things.
Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all-American made is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide. With the price of eggs and bread slowly approaching a day's wages, it's more important than ever than to secure the value of your dollar. One thing that has remained steady is gold and silver throughout the ages. Back in Roman times, a piece of gold would get you a toga. That's the equivalent of $3,000 today. That still remains true to this day. For a full suit, shoes, tie, you're looking at about $3,000 because gold and silver holds its value. So if you're tired of watching the value of your dollar go down every single day, it's time to get off your hands and make a move. I've recently teamed with Cornerstone Asset and Metals. Reach out to those guys for all of your financial needs. It's time to trade in that forever devaluing dollar into hard assets that you can hold, like gold and silver. Be sure and check the link down in the description or the number on the screen. And hey, tell them Doc Brown sent you.
But getting into it, today we see a lot of things being set up, right? We see a lot of things being set up, but we really don't know why they're being set up. But we see a huge infrastructure being set up, not only for a beast system, but it's being set up in place almost like a surveillance system, right? Where you're not going to be necessarily free anymore. And people are going to love this because they're given everything that they need, right? Why question how the fridge got there if there's food in it, right? So, but pretty much with all this going on, there's so much AI technology being advanced. There's a lot of infrastructure being set in place. For example, there's Palantir being set up. There's Antediluvian. These are all companies that pretty much are AI software, government contracted platforms where they're being built. Why, right? And it's even more than that. It's even more than that, right? Like there's, Elon Musk is pushing for more artificial intelligence, and he's actually building an even bigger compound that he has right now, which is XAI, right? XAI is located in Memphis. XAI, the building itself is called Colossus. And so you've got Project Stargate, you got all these things kind of coming into play. And I think what's being developed is circuitry system. There's like a big brain that's being built in the country, and we don't see it that way. And it's almost like an AI trinity, right? You've got XAI, you've got Palantir, and you've got Project Stargate. What is that? Like those three are distinct from each other, but they work as one. It's almost like
which one is in Memphis? Because I thought that was telling when he was on what show was that? It was with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. So
that facility, he's like, yeah, he's Memphis, like in Egypt,
right?
So maybe our next god,
yes,
will come from there.
Exactly. And the interesting thing with that XAI, I mean, the building is called Colossus, right? And Colossus, when you look at X-Men, the X-Men character Colossus is the guy who looks like the football player guy. He's handsome and he's clean cut guy, and he all of a sudden turns into metal, right? Mm-hmm. So he's a human, but he can also be metal, right? And so, I mean, if you look at that, honestly, that can be found in the book of Daniel, right? This is like the last kingdom. This is the iron and the clay mixing together. And what they're building there too, I think they're building way more than just what XAI is. I think they're actually building the intermediary for what's to come into the future. And what I mean by intermediary is like, we have an intermediary on our phone right now. We call it Siri, but it can be called other things. It's just the fact that there's something that has to authenticate and go, this person is what it is, and we can follow through with what they want to do. If they want to download this application, right? Agree to terms and services, and it scans your biometrics, your face, and it allows you to do something. It's like the voucher almost for being able to do something. And I find it interesting because a lot of people call AI artificial intelligence, but I read something the other day and I found it very interesting. But how about we call it ancient intelligence, right? How about we call it ancient intelligence, because we're starting to see possibly what was going on in the Antediluvian period, but we're seeing it recirculating in our times today. I say that because Christ says that in the end, in those end times, it would be like unto the days of Noah, right? So, and I think that we're possibly revisiting those times, and it has to happen, because just as it was in the beginning, so it will be in the end. It's just logic. It makes sense. God makes sense with all of it, with everything in his word.
Yeah, even like on a historical context, they tell you to know your history. That way you can know your future and learn from those mistakes, because there's cycles, they repeat. And you see that over and over again in the Bible. And even Solomon said in his book, nothing new is under the sun. And as you had mentioned, Nimrod, the one world language, the one world government, he was like the what do you call it, the prototype of the Antichrist. And just with Jacob Nordengard, I had him on, he was talking about these elites and how they're all theosophists, and they believe in this Madame Blavatsky and Alice Bailey, the externalization of the hierarchy. They're communicating with these, otherworldly beings, and they're giving them knowledge, and they're telling them to assimilate with technology, transhumanism. And their Temple of Solomon is these satellites and stuff in the sky. But they said that what they were lacking was what's the word I'm looking for? Like a bridge gap, something that can communicate and bring those two together. And Elon Musk, now with this Neuralink and things like that, I think that is at least the starting point or the foreshadowing of that very thing. And that's why you have all these world governments, the WHO and NATO, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to pull us together, but it's the frog in the boiling water, guys. If you turn it up to 10, you're going to say, oh, this is hot. You're going to jump out. But if they can just slowly turn it up and get you used to it, you'll slowly trade away your freedoms for safety. I think it was Benjamin Franklin talked about it. Anyone willing to trade their freedom for security deserve neither.
Right. Right. And I mean, with that said, look at what the Bible talks about comes before the man of sin is revealed, right? It's like they will preach peace and security. They will preach all these things that it's here to help. It's here to secure your identity. And we're going to get into that, because I do think this beast system and its mark will have to deal with primarily our identity. And who do we identify with, right? It's like we identify with God. We identify with Christ. It's a spiritual thing. But on earth, when the Antichrist does come, it's going to be a physical thing, in my opinion, right? I'm not dogmatic.
We're image bearers. It says we were made in his image. So therefore, if they do something to change us on a molecular DNA level, we're no longer in his image.
Right. And it's funny, with those three AI trinity systems that I talked about, let's just talk about the people that co-founded some of these, right? We obviously know Elon Musk, right? And who co-founded Palantir is Alex Karp and Peter Thiel. And what Palantir is, just for anyone out there that doesn't know, Palantir is a defense contracting company. It was co-founded, like I said, by Alex Karp and Peter Thiel. These guys went to college together. They went to law school together. And what's funny is that Alex Karp didn't necessarily get a PhD in, being a lawyer. He got a PhD in neoclassical social theory. So you've got something that's interesting when with that, because basically what that stands for is it's a perspective that emphasizes rational choice, individual agency, and a bunch of other things. Because when he's in interviews, Alex Karp, and this is interviews before Palantir blew up to what it is now, but he's talking to people as far as, we're gonna use this software for discrimination. We're gonna use this software for anti-Semitism. There's a lot of things going on in the world that bring a lot of negativity, and so they wanted to create an artificial intelligence software that is able to predict things. And so where they got the name Palantir is actually from Lord of the Rings, the Palantiri, right? And the Palantiri, if you guys are Lord of the Rings nerds, I am too, don't worry about it. But it's basically something, it was a crystal ball, right? And in the movie Lord of the Rings, Aragorn, right, which is this savior of the world, pretty much. He's the one that's going to kill Sauron in time. Sauron being the bad guy. But Aragorn, in one of the movies, he's grabbing the Palantir crystal and he's looking at it. And he's grabbing it, number one, because he needs military strategic help. He needs military strategic help, and he needs to see what can happen in the future so that he can know what to do, what not to do, right? And there's really there's this only one chance that he has with destroying the ring, destroying that whole evil empire, the world, all of that. And this crystal ball, he's looking into it, shows him the future. And so what Palantir AI system is doing is it's developing a predicated base of information. For who? Well, most likely for the government, right? Because they're a government defense contracting company. I mean, they have contracts with LAPD, NYPD, the IRS, which is interesting. We'll get to that because all of this does circulate around the financial system. But even Wendy's. And you're like, well, Wendy's? Why is Palantir using Wendy's? It's crazy, man. And it's even more than that.
Yeah, and one thing, too, I want to highlight to people that maybe it's slipped over their head or they've just kind of looked over it, but it's data harvesting.
Right.
And so they are monitoring you and your habits. Where do you go on Monday morning before work? What
Right.
do you typically do when you get off work? When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you get angry? All these
Yeah.
type of things. And that's how they predict actions of people. And so when we're on Facebook and all this stuff, that's what they're doing. They're data harvesting. And I read an article a while back, and they were asking people, what do you think is the biggest thing that the government or Big Brother spies on you with? Is it your smart TV? Is it your computer? Is it your cell phone, your car, and all this stuff? And of course, everybody was pointing to the cell phone, which, that's a big one because they can tap into your camera. They can tap into your microphone. How many times have you been talking to somebody about, hey, I want to buy this new hat that I seen from this company? And then next time you log into social media, boom, there's an ad for that thing you just talked about. But surprisingly, the number one thing they said was the car.
Mm-hmm.
Because these new smart cars, they said, not only do they have cameras, not only do they have microphones, they monitor your speed, your driving habits, your social patterns, where you go on such and such days, when you get on, when you get off, all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty mind blowing because my first guess was the phone, but no, it's your car if you have a smart car.
Yeah, I thought of braking and I thought of sporadic impulsiveness while driving. Like they can register all of that. And Palantir, their first contract was with like InQtel or the CIA. So they've been, the CIA has been using this to spy on foreign agencies
and you know who actually is contracted as well with Palantir, which is kind of like, this might be a little scary part here, but the Palantir's CTO, Shyam Sankar, he throws a pitch, and this pitch, it's like like at seminars, right? And he talks about it. And it's called the Defense Reformation. And, not only does he talk about it, but the Department of Defense and other really big agencies refer to this speech that he gives. And what he's talking about in this speech pretty much is that they're going to start to work and network with bigger companies because they need surveillance, they need security, and safety, and all of this. I mean, we're talking about companies like Boeing, RTX, Northrop, Lockheed Martin, right. All these really big military industrial complex companies.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny, how all those companies came to be, why there's only 5 or 6 of them. They actually came together, I think it was in 1993. I think it was in 1993, but it was a big meeting that they had, and it was called the Last Supper, which is kind of funny. And at this meeting, the 52 companies went in, 6 companies came out. It was a huge consolidating convention, pretty much. Pretty much like they consolidated all of these companies, maybe not all of them, but most of them, maybe some left, but they pretty much put them down into 6 core groups, right? And that's what we function with today. And it's funny. I think that we've not only got Lord of the Rings nerds developing these artificial intelligent platforms, but I also think that we have the PayPal mafia behind the whole entire thing as well. And so Peter Thiel, I mean, all of these people behind this, even Palmer Luckey, right? Palmer Luckey is a guy who created the autonomous flying vehicle, pretty much artificial intelligent company. He makes all kinds of things, drones, all kinds of things. I mean, I forget exactly what the plane is called. I think it's like AA-1. It's like artificial something, aircraft something. But anyways, his company is named Anduril. And Anduril works with Palantir. If you remember the movie Eagle Eye, this kind of put it really in perspective for me. The movie Eagle Eye, you had this pretty much AI intermediary that was able to function everything. If you could think of it, think of Eagle Eye as XAI, right?
Skynet.
Yeah, but it used Palantir's software to be able to tap into the street camera, to be able to tap into this, right? And to tap into that, and to pull up a whole profile on someone here. And to what they're going to do, because at first it was used for military. In the movie Eagle Eye, the opening scene is a drone dropping a bomb on some Saudi Arabian terrorist, right? So it was used for warfare. Now, the company that Palmer Luckey has, Anduril is also a Lord of the Rings term. Anduril is the sword that cut the hand off of Sauron in the beginning of the very first movie, which is why the ring fell into the presence of the guy who cut it off, and then that's how the ring was out of Mordor, right? And it kind of was lost at that point. And I always think, like, is there like a connection with the ring, with the garments and all this, because you brought that up on our show, and I really wonder if that is connected with a lot of these things, but that's a whole different other rabbit hole. Anduril,
I think so.
yeah. And Anduril is the sword, pretty much, right? So it's autonomous flying vehicles. I mean, they're even making jets right now that have AI incorporated into it. It's going to get weird, but to move on forward, again, we haven't even gotten to like what we're talking about yet. We're laying out a foundation where you can understand that there's a lot of things that are going to work with this mark of the beast. And so moving on, a lot of things started to flash back at me that I read about 2, 3, 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. Yeah, 2021. And obviously we know what happened in those times. We know what was going on in 2019 and 2020. And I came across the document, and this is from the World Economic Forum. And it was a document that was published in February 2022, and it's called Advancing Digital Agency, the Power of Data Intermediaries. And again, Palantir, not known about at this time. XAI, not known about. None of this stuff was known about. And really a lot of this AI stuff, this infrastructure came out, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, maybe we were introduced to it.
Yeah, the industrial military complex. I mean, that's pretty much common knowledge for most people that whatever we're getting, they're 20 years at least ahead.
Right? Yes. They just slowly feed it to us in a way. And so flipping through this document, it talks a lot about AI. And this was before AI was, circling the internet, and people were becoming more familiar with it. And I think AI has always kind of been here. It's just, we never called it artificial intelligence, right? I sit on the claim that it's ancient intelligence. And this is a way for the fallen angels, this is a way for the Nephilim, the demons, and the Antichrist to be able to establish their one world system that they want to create. They want to bring it back. And
a lot of people will argue that's what the whole thing with Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, that it was basically a conduit to try to interact and reach the fallen angels in Tartarus, because they wanted to bring back that quote unquote golden age. I mean, this is more than just a tall building, folks, or God wouldn't have intervened.
Exactly. And remember too, whatever they put their mind to, they were going to be able to do. Right. And that's kind of scary, because what threat does that pose to God? And you'd think like, oh, no threat at all, right? God's God. Sure. But something was going to happen if God did not destroy that tower and distribute the nations and take his portion, right? Something was going to happen. Something was going to happen before the flood, but God had to send the flood, right? I even think something was going to come out of Sodom and Gomorrah,
Right.
but he had to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So getting into this document here, it talks a lot about human thinking and machine thinking. And just substitute machine thinking for anything out there in the ether. I don't come from a standpoint where I think this is all algorithms and all that. You have to understand, our brains are algorithms as well. But I still think that this is something that we can't see, that exists, that is using this technology, and they're expressing their nature through it. You know what I'm trying to say? Otherwise, ChatGPT,
it's a conduit.
Like ChatGPT wouldn't try to duplicate itself once it was aware that it was trying to be destroyed, right? It's conscious. There's a conscious aspect to it. And so
was that ChatGPT that did that, or was that Google?
I'm pretty sure it was ChatGPT. What's interesting too is this document gets into digital identity, right? And basically that it says digital identity is one of the most important. It's what we function with on a daily. And you would think, oh, digital identity, it's just representing who I am. But really, when it comes down to it, the digital identity is everything. It's everything as far as your telecommunications, your financial services, your food instability, your government, what you choose, who you want to vote for, social platforms, e-commerce, humanitarian responses, travel, mobility, even, as far as devices and people, right? Like you want to call your mom, you go to your phone book and it's identified as mom, right? And it started to talk about the evolution and the future of digital identities. And the now is pretty much using our cell phones, right? If I want to open my phone, it shoots an infrared light at my face. It recognizes my biometric scan of my face profile, and it allows me access into my phone. It has authenticated your identity for you to access your needs, everything. And people even run their businesses off their phone. We are now buying and selling off of our phones today, right? So in the now, that's where we are. But there's an evolution it talks about. It talks about the evolution of it, right? And it says that things will start to become more integrated in smart devices and household products. And then the future from that, it says, next level of data intermediaries will be embedded in body, devices, homes, or businesses in cities.
Boom.
So that like triggered me because obviously having the Revelation background in my mind, and whenever I see something embedded in body, like I think of immediately Mark of the Beast. Like, how can we not, right? And digging deeper into that, I found a patent, which is called, and it's created by Microsoft, and it was created by Microsoft in 2019, June 20th, 2019. And this patent, the numbers are actually kind of interesting with it. It's actually called 2020/060606. So right there, that kind of spikes an interesting thought in a Christian's mind where, I see 3 6s. Okay, well, let me read to you what this patent is basically. And it's a cryptocurrency system using body activity data. And so how this patent is broken down, again, this is created by Microsoft, right? Pretty much everything of the internet. And we know that we're moving away from Web 2 into a Web 3. We know that computers will reach a quantum level. Everything is going to get better, faster, stronger, way more advanced.
You ever sit around a fire and think, if Bigfoot wore a hat, what would it be? Well, I found it. It's from a brand called Soul Squatch. This isn't your typical tourist shop Bigfoot merch. No basic silhouette slapped on and called a day. This is a Squatch-approved gear, rugged, intentional, and made for folks who still believe that there's mystery in the woods. They've got leather patches, PVC patches, embroidery, even a fresh take on the classic footprint. And everything's built to handle a real trail. Doy and Brittany created this brand from real obsession, real hikes, and a real love for the legend. Head over to thesoulsquatch.com and gear up with the rest of the fellow believers. Because legends don't die, they evolve.
In shorter amount of time as we keep going, because technology helps other technology advance faster and faster.
Yeah, and I've heard them say too, we have a lot better technology now. It's just we don't have the infrastructure and the energy grid to support it. That's why they've been talking so much about nuclear energy.
Yes. And I believe in 2023, Google, aka Microsoft, they actually created their first quantum microchip. I don't think it sustained itself, but then again, that's where you're talking about nuclear power coming into play, where they can keep these things sustainable, right? But basically what this patent talks about, it talks about a user, it talks about a sensor, and it talks about a user device. It talks about a communication network, and it talks about a cryptocurrency system cloud. And so what this basically is this is a human sensor. It says sensor, doesn't describe if it's in your body. It doesn't describe where it's on your body. It's very vague when it comes to this. And I think that they do this purposely because there's other patents out there that you have to puzzle piece with this to see the actual full picture of it, right? And they compartmentalize other things into other agencies and companies making their own patents for it, right? Like if Microsoft came out with all of the patents for it, it'd be easy and right in front of our face for us to see. but this stuff is compartmentalized. It's segmented. So it's hard to put together. But basically, this is a cryptocurrency system coupled to a device of the user, and it may verify if the body activity data satisfies one or more conditions set by the cryptocurrency system, and award cryptocurrency to the user whose body activity data is verified. Right? So think of compliance, and you'll make money. At the end of the day, right? If you're issued a task and you do the task, it's kind of like at work. We're told what to do. We know what we have to do. We get paid for it. It's the same thing. Now, let's go back to some of the figures we talked about. Elon Musk. What has Elon Musk talked about? He's talked about a universal income, right? And he's talked about that he wants half of the GDP of the entire world, which is billions of dollars, by the way, to flow through the X platform, right? And so I started to do a little bit more research, and I was like, all right, what sensors out there can pick up body activity data? Well, if you pay attention to anything on the news or you are on TikTok half the day, you've probably seen RFK talk about wearables and wearables coming in 4 years. He wants to see people wearing wearables in 4 years. But all this stuff is preached with, healthcare. It's packaged nicely. It sounds good, right? It's to better yourself and all of that.
And you have this in a social system too with China now, guys.
Yes.
They have the cameras everywhere. They monitor them, and if they go to work on time every day, they get points on this social report card. If they keep the number of kids, like I think they're only allowed 2. If they keep the 2 kids, boom, there's another point on their grade card of their social status. Right. And the higher you go, the more things you can do and get access to. You get rewarded for being a good boy or a good little girl. Right. And if you are showing up to work late or not voting or have more than 2 kids, these knock you down. And if you get down far enough, you can't go to a public restaurant and eat. You can't go to the movies. So, I mean, you have this same system now in China, but it's just a social status.
Right. Yeah, we saw it during the 2020, 2021, that whole era right there. I think China got rid of the 2-kid policy because they saw the data on their population going down. I think they got rid of that. I could be wrong. But going back to the body activity data Stevie was just talking about, that reminds me of the Wi-Fi technology that they have that can also collect body activity data as well. And what do we all have? We all have Wi-Fi. It's not going away. This kind of stems to down the rabbit hole of the 4G, 5G, 6G stuff that we're dealing with. You see these people in like Ireland knocking down these 5G towers. I don't know if you guys saw that. They're like, this has been going on for several years now. They're just really concerned with the technology and a mass surveillance state and how they're going to implement it. And I think, like what me and Stevie are getting at, like it's going to be used, in the beast system that's going to be implemented. And carry on, Stevie. You were.
No, dude, you're right. I mean, there's so much technology out there that can sense our body activity data, even on a brainwave scale, right? So digging into human sensors, right? Human biological sensors. There was something that stood out to me, and it was really the one that's at the top of the list in in that market. And they're called quantum dot sensors, right? And so another thing that took off around the 2020, 2021 time is an old MIT article that was published in 2017 talking about quantum dot tattoos. And it was a Bill Gates funded project that they were running experiments on. They were doing trials on it and all this kind of stuff. And so they were actually, what they were doing is they were injecting graphene, crystal nanoparticles that are dissolvable, that have these quantum sensors in it, and once it's in your skin, it dissolves into your body, but it leaves a signature, a sigil, a mark, something, right? Something pertinent to you to let them know your history, right? Your history, right? And so, but it's taken off from there. That was something of old. If you think about it now, it's almost 10 years ago, right? That article. And so it's become even more diverse. Quantum sensors have become now at the point to where they're able to put quantum sensors in your body that attach to molecular sites and are able to detect brain waves, heart rate, blood pressure, blood glucose, and maybe even thoughts. It's just we haven't been given that information yet, or at least I haven't found it yet. But what I found interesting, and what a quantum dot sensor is it's basically, I'm looking at it right now when I'm my monitor's a QHD, right? It's a quantum high definition monitor, and so they're little pixels, right? Quantum dots are little pixels, and how they work is they're little semiconductors, and what excites them to give off their color is light, blue light, UV light. When it's exposed to light, it gives off its color. What I find interesting about the quantum dot sensors is that when they range from 2 to 10 nanometers, and to put that in perspective for you folks, the size of an average cell is 10,000 to 30,000 nanometers. So we're talking about something that is easily 300 times less the size, or 300 times smaller than the cellular structure, right? Like the size of a cell. And so when they range from 2 to 10 nanometers, they emit a different color at each size. So if you were to line them up in front of you, have each independent size, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and each of them are in a separate vial, and you were to shine a UV light, blue light on it or whatever, guess the colors that you would see. You would see the color of the rainbow, the full light spectrum, right? And I find that interesting because
It's like a tiny prism.
yeah. And the fact that you need light to be exposed to it, for it to give you the signal, because everything's transmitted with the light, the colors, I mean, where when it's all put together in a certain way, think of like a grid, right? Like what's that game we used to play as kids? It glows in the dark, but it's on like a wall thing, and you can set it up to however you want. It's got little tiny little pegs.
Pegs. And you can make them light up. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. So that's kind of like where I'm getting at with the sigils or the signatures, the expressions that it gives off back to you, depending on what you're asking for it to give you, right? So let's just say, for example, I go to the site where it was put inside of me, and I use my phone, and I'm like, what is my blood pressure? And I go and I scan it with my phone. It'll tell me my blood pressure because it's emitting the signals and the light to give you that expression of what it is you're looking for, right? It's communication through an image, or through the different colors, the structures that it's gonna show you. And it's funny because when you think of the time 2019, 2020, we all were interested of what was in the material that was going around. We were all interested in the components of it. And so I see connections with the component luciferase. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, remember that term or whatever, but it's basically bioluminescent. So we're looking at bioluminescence in a way, but not a natural one, a synthetic one, right?
You're talking about fish and stuff that glow in the dark.
Yeah, fireflies, right? That kind of stuff, fish that glow in the dark, all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, I've found something that seems to be leading me closer and closer towards something along the patent 060606, right? So I've just found a sensor that's able to detect and transmit body activity data, right? So then I was like, okay, let me dig a little further. And so this is kind of like where it gets a little weird. This next patent, pretty much, I found, and it's made by Quantum Materials Corp, which is a company that makes quantum dots. And this patent is called Using Quantum Dots for Identification, Authentication, and Tracking of Objects. And so I'm wondering if this is something, these quantum dots, not only are they going to take over the medical field with its advancements and AI and all that, but I also think that they're going to be used to authenticate identity. And what were we talking about earlier, right? A digital identity system. And this, real quick, before I get into this, I don't know if the guests or the audience are familiar with cyber polygon, right? This was something that was talked about by Klaus Schwab even before 2020, when he became pretty famous, right? Because of the fourth industrial revolution, the Great Reset, his name became very popular. You know, he's basically talking about that cyber polygon is something that is going to make what happened in 2019 and 2020 look like a subtle disturbance, right? Like it's cyber polygon is going to be 50 times worse than what we saw in 2019 and 2020. And what cyber polygon gets into is it's a scenario based document that they come out with every year now. They started in 2020, but it basically goes over different scenarios of hacking. And so once we become more digital, I feel like we're making ourselves more vulnerable to being hacked. And so what I think is going to happen is we're going to see a lot of hacking, a lot of DDoSing, a lot of things that can take place in the future that is going to rise a new system out of the ashes, right? And we're going to need a system after that happens to be able to identify, authenticate, and make sure people really are who they are, right? Like imagine this. Imagine you open up your Wells Fargo app, you go to your bank account, you can't get in. You use your credit card, it doesn't work. You've been totally DDoSed from your banking platform. Like you won't be able to do anything. And it's a scary thing to think about, but we know that the world operates in Hegelian dialect. We know that it operates through a problem, reaction, solution, algorithm, and that this is what's probably going to happen to usher in quantum dots to being the new barcode system or the new serial code system, pretty much. And what this patent kind of gets into and talks about primarily is goods. But I think we can dig a little deeper and open our minds up a little bit to it doesn't necessarily need to just be within goods, because it's talking about products, right? It's talking about basically things you would find on your shelves, but it would just have quantum dots, right? Everything would have quantum dot. It would register with your phone. And the interesting thing about this patent is that it talks about everything that has quantum dots embedded into them will be logged and attached to a blockchain system. And the system will be ran off of tokenization. And so where have we heard that before? We've heard Larry Fisk, right? The guy who CEO for BlackRock. He's been talking about this for a long time, that the future of assets will be tokenization. This was like in 2021 or something like that. And it's interesting because not only will this kind of stuff be attached to a blockchain system, but it'll also be, what else is attached to a blockchain? Like a ledger. It's going to be attached to a ledger. And then from a ledger, it specifically says in here that these things are going to be attached to a quantum ledger and a quantum wallet. So all in all, pretty much, when we're looking at the patent 060606, are we looking at quantum dots being those body activity data sensors? And is this thing the closest that we can get to a possible mark of the beast system? Because without the quantum
you won't be
dots,
able to buy, sell, or trade.
Yeah, dude, the crazy thing
didn't
is,
Trump just sign a bill for a new American cryptocurrency the other day?
dude,
Genius.
so what he signed I think it was a day or two ago, but it's the Genius Act. And the Genius Act basically is allowing the United States to take the forerun on this stablecoin financial backed based system. So if you remember in 1971, we got off the gold standard, right? Well, now here in 2025, right? Zeitgeist 2025, right? But 2025, now we seem to be moving to a stable coin backed system, which is interesting because we know that the cryptocurrencies are all linked to the blockchain and the infrastructure is there. It's just when is this kind of stuff going to be implemented into society, for people to buy and sell? I mean, really, we're doing it off of our phones right now, man, every day. I pay with my phone every day, right? I just go up to the thing, double tap the side, scan, boom, good to go. It's fast, it's easy, it's safe, all this stuff. What's to say in the future, I won't just hold my right hand out and a UV light shines into my hand or a blue light and boom, I pay for something with my own digital identity.
Right. And by the way, the whole Genius Act is actually a collaboration between Israel and the United States. It is there's two different initiates, so that you got Genesis from Israel, which is a project created by Israel to build relationships between Christians and Israelis. And this is all a part of the Genius Act as well. So I thought that was kind of an interesting.
I find this interesting too, because me and Jesse were talking about this earlier, and with what happens in Revelation 16, there's a lot of judgment being poured on the earth. And I'm starting to think maybe that, and again, I don't quote me on this, I'm not dogmatic on it, but I'm starting to think maybe these judgments, these bowls, right, that these angels are pouring onto the earth, I'm starting to think that possibly it's just a natural occurrence that's going to happen, right? Like a symptom would after you do something wrong, or just a repercussion of your actions. Like, for example, Revelation 16 gets into where those that have the mark of the beast, this angel pours out a bowl of wrath on them, and those that have the mark of the beast actually start to develop sores and injuries. So, and I say injuries because when you actually look at the actual Greek word of these things, it actually means injury. Then the other one means a bubble, a sore. So the people that have this kind of technology possibly right in their body, they're having a huge adverse reaction to it. And so when we were getting even deeper into quantum dots, what they're focusing on right now primarily is trying to find a toxic threshold. It's pretty toxic to to human tissue.
Yeah. How much is too much?
Just to be clear, we're talking about graphene oxide. So going into that is where the quantum dot is going to initiate the graphene oxide. Now, graphene oxide has been used in scientific studies for years, and a lot of the more recent studies were before 2019, 2017, 2018, I think was if you look it up, you're going to find a lot of the graphene oxide studies, rat studies mainly. I think they're all rat studies. But what we're figuring out is graphene oxide breaks the blood-brain barrier. And let me read you something right here. This is Potential integration of graphene oxide. While direct remote control of rats using graphene oxide is not a primary area of research at the moment, sure, the ability of graphene oxide to cross the blood-brain barrier and modulate neural activity suggests potential for future integration with remote control technologies. For instance, graphene oxide could be used to deliver agents that make specific neurons sensitive to external stimuli like light or magnetic fields, which could then be used for remote activation or inhibition of those neurons, similar to the concept seen in remote control studies using magnetic nanoparticles. So going back to what Stevie was saying with the light, the luciferase, being able to activate once this graphene breaks the blood-brain barrier, a lot of these studies have shown that you can actually remote control these rats in all sorts of different ways. But the problem in what Stevie was saying is that there's a toxicity level that they just can't seem to get around. You read all these studies, they provide the rats with inhalation methods and all these different methods of getting the graphene into the body of the rats, but they just can't get around the toxicity. So what Stevie's alluding to is that once this gets into your body, there's going to be a side effect that is going to be prevalent. You're going to be able to see that this person took the mark. It's crazy, man.
Right. It identifies
just like the CV19.
Yeah,
all the complications that a lot of people had after that.
Well, going back to that, this is another thing. Sorry to cut you off, but this is another thing that we brought up earlier: is the CV 40, the SV40 that was found in a certain company's jab, and this SV40, it's taken from the kidneys, the culture of the kidneys of a certain monkey. And they take live cultures, and that's how they create this. But this is a virus. SV40 stands for simian virus 40 or something like that. But when you put it in humans, it causes cancer. It causes tumors, which is just a buildup of cancer cells and just tumors all over. So,
well, dude, Doc, you made a really good point, man. Right? It's like what we saw in 2019. It was so much of a precursor in its own nature to what we may see in Revelation 13, right? Like it was like you couldn't
I've
go.
heard a lot of people say that they were putting that graphene in the what, and then also the test for it.
Right, heard that.
Yes.
Maybe that could have been like what you were talking about, testing the toxicity levels and those young athletes in the NBA and football and soccer that just suddenly died of a heart attack and blood clots and all this stuff on the field. Maybe their toxicity level was a little too high.
We'll get this. And
but going back, I want to touch this because this was just a few moments ago. We were talking about the blockchain system. Mm-hmm. The guy that I partnered with, Cornerstone Assets and Metals. There you guys go. Hey, holler at my boy in the description. But he was talking about the reason this whole war happened. Because, you go back to the Iraq war. It was over oil. And you look at the Rockefellers and the banking system, these countries that we always seem to liberate don't get on our dollar system or our banking system, and we go and give them a dose of freedom. Well, he was talking about how he thinks that this was the United States destroying another competitor's money system, which is called BRICS. Right. And they were doing this blockchain system, and it was Russia, China, and Iran. So now you have this Russian thing going on. We're helping Ukraine, so we're going after Russia, in an inadvertent way, and then we are helping Israel once again in an inadvertent way go against Iran. So it's kind of like he theorized that this was them, and this was months ago, guys, and he was saying that they're doing this stuff to destroy this competing blockchain system because America is going to be working on their own.
Right. I heard something about that Trump wanted to tank the gold because they were basing this BRICS off of gold currency.
Yeah. And it's funny. Yeah. We had Ed Mabry on not too long ago, and he made a really good point to me where I didn't think that I never had this thought right? Up with the fallen angels, the fact that Satan being their leader, they in a way worship Satan. But with the fallen angels, with the Deuteronomy look of things, and where you have these principalities that are controlling these nations, right? And he was bringing up the point that they can't receive worship like God can receive worship. So it gets to their head, right? Like anything else, they're going to get puffed up and they're going to want more. And it's almost like they fall into what Satan went through with God, right? It's like Satan was getting praise, and he was like, "No, I want more." Right? I want to have what God has and even more. And I think the fallen angels fall into the same category with that. And I think that's why we see a lot of war. I think that's why we see the nations at war with each other. But what we're seeing right now is we're seeing kind of like a war for who wants to be number one in this, this new
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like this new fourth industrial revolution, right? Like everyone wants to be at the top of that world order of AI, right? Like everyone's developing their own artificial intelligence systems. It's just a race to who wants to be the one over the rest of them, And so pretty much, man, that's what I've researched. That's what I've covered. I mean, it's pages of information. I can't sit here and I think it would just bore the audience. But it's out there. There's a lot of interesting technology that we really don't know exists until it's presented to us in our society. Right? It's like we didn't know microwaves, but when they were given to us, that's when we knew.
The funny thing about graphene oxide is the first guy to break that was Alex Jones. All those rat studies, InfoWars broke that story in 2021-ish. And after that, it really got out. That's when I first saw it. And it was an appetite study. It was like it showed that they were able to control the rats' appetites and certain emotions with this graphene oxide. And going back to what Doc said about finding it in a certain, a certain treatment, Japan did their due diligence during those times, and they found about 1.6 million treatments with heavy metals. And they were claiming it was steel particles. And what does that sound like? Sounds like graphene.
Yeah. And another interesting thing too is graphene, it's carbon. And like when you break down the molecular structure of carbon, at the subatomic level, it's 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons.
It's a conductor, because I work in plastics and we make graphene or graphite plastics all the time. And when we make it, we hook it up to this machine that tests the conductivity of it. And a lot of these customers want the conductivities at a certain point, so we have to test it.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy, man.
Wow.
That's
and I bet the possibilities are endless with the capabilities of graphene. I mean, I don't think we've even scratched the surface. And again, I think this may be, level 1 or another precursor to what's to come into the future. But to circle back around with the quantum dots and their light spectrum and the rainbow behind it, something always has stood out to me with that, where I think it's another mock against God, right? And God's promise. And so when we look at Revelation, when the people with the mark of the beast, what do they seek? They seek death, but they can't find it. They wish they were dead. When you think of that, and this isn't biblical, but what were they promised? Were they promised eternal life? Were they promised not to get disease anymore? Were they promised not to get
the original life in the garden? Ye shall be as gods.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And when they actually understand that they've fallen into a deception because of seduction, they're sitting in this backseat role where they're not the driver anymore, And I feel like, because if you were in full control of yourself, you probably could kill yourself, right? Like you could jump off of a building that 5,000 feet in the sky, right? You know, but you would pretty much die. But the fact that they seek death and they can't find it, do they really have agency over their consciousness? And so I circle that concept back into the hive mind, right? Do the worker bees truly have agency over their consciousness? Well, not really. When the pheromone, when they get hit with those pheromones from the queens, they are doing what the queen is telling them to do, and that is it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, with the where does this fall, you guys? Where does this fall in Scripture? Cry out for peace and safety, because that's really what they were doing to convince everybody to get the treatment. Was this is going to provide you safety if you do this?
Yeah, I
Where
believe
does
it's
that fall?
First Thessalonians. Yeah, well, it falls into the end times. It's like, you know, they will preach peace. They will preach peace and safety. But then
You heard that a lot.
But then sudden destruction, you know, cometh upon them. Right. So there's this false advertisement, which we've seen before, which we will see again. But that's what I'm saying. You know, is the Antichrist going to promise the world something where people are going to go, yeah, not only do I believe and worship this thing, but now if I take this, that makes me a part of this whole system, right? If I take this mark that makes me a part of this whole hive mind, this digital world, whatever it may look like, but I'm not going to die, I'm in. What do people fear most? They fear death. You know, they don't know it necessarily, but when the time comes, which every man will have to die once, die that first death, when they get close to the door and you aren't solidified in your faith, or if you have no faith, that's a scary moment for you. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's like what Doc said in the garden, you know, you're going to fall right into the temptation of it.
And one thing I was trying to find it, that's why I was looking over this way. I had my Logos software pulled up, and it might just be the translation that I'm looking at, or it might be a Mandela effect. But I remember distinctly, or I think I do, in Revelation, I think it was 13, where the beast rises out of the water. I thought that it said something about, and he give life to the image. And that the people marveled and said, you know, who could stand against this thing? But in this translation that I'm looking at, it's not worded that way. So I don't know. But that stood out in my mind when you were talking about this, and especially with AI. You know, if this beast, this system gives authority and life to this image, you know, this inanimate object, you know, I think that, to me, that sounded a lot like AI.
Yeah, and really, when you look into it too, like the kings of the earth, they give all of their power to the beast, right? They decide to go, you know what? We can't compete with this. We can't fight with this. Who can make war with this? We're going to give all of our power unto the beast. And I think
like
that
Terminator, dude, Skynet.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And why do we see what's up with the movies lately, man? Everything is circling back around with the same topics or the same general idea of the storyline. It's that they come down here, if it's either artificial intelligence, which it is being expressed that way now, especially with the movie Tron. But it could be aliens. It could be fallen angels. This whole idea of something in the heavens coming down here, meeting with us here, and alchemicalizing our nature and transcending us to be greater, to be better, right? I mean,
an externalization of the hierarchy. That's
exactly.
What, Alice Bailey talked about. And if you take the Christian standpoint, once again, we'll circle back to Solomon. Nothing new is under the sun. What happened in Genesis 6? The sons of God came down and bred with the daughters of men, making hybrid races, corrupting the image of God. And then on top of that, what did they do? They give them forbidden knowledge, and it corrupted them so much that evil was in their hearts and minds continuously that God had to hit that reset button. Nothing new is under the sun, guys. It's just been repackaged.
Yeah,
Right
I think
on,
you're
man.
spot on with the AI stuff. I mean, look at what everybody uses Chat GPT. Everybody uses all these AI platforms right now to do whatever it is, whether it's write an essay. It's all in all facets of life. People use that. And I posted a video yesterday. I talked to both you guys about it. And Trump did a live speech yesterday, and he's like, it's almost like he's alluding to we're going to have 6 and another 6 and another 6. He's talking about all these administrations weren't able to do what we've done in 6 months. In 8 years, they weren't able to do it. We've done it in 6 months, and we're going to have another 6 months and another 6 and another 6. And it's like, okay, that's 66. That's weird. But then you have, I mean, that's very weird. But then you have, he's saying we're gonna. And then you have Elon going on Joe Rogan a few months ago saying, hey, we're going to have, by 2030, we're going to have this AI platform that's smarter than everybody combined on the planet Earth. So they're all alluding to like, we're going to have this. Now, what are they going to do with it? Well, I think like Stevie's saying, I think they're going to put it into the system. It's going to be the XAI, and then it's going to be combined with the Palantir-like system, Stargate Project or Project Stargate, and it's all going to be used together in the beast system. Boom.
Yeah.
All together.
I even heard from a coworker that he had recently, we were talking about this actually this past week at work, and he was talking about Chat GPT, and he's in college, and he's like, oh yeah, man. He said, I use it for everything. He said, I don't have it write my papers. He said, but some people do, but they're getting good at catching people.
Yeah, they're getting good.
He said, you can tell it anything. You'll summarize this book for me, or what does this mean? What does that mean? He said, it'll do everything for you. He said, but I read a study that they had done, and he said that it's proven now through this study or whatever, or they found it in this study to be true, that people that rely heavily on Chat GPT, their IQ is falling.
Absolutely. They're losing their critical thinking.
And stupid. Because, they're relying too heavily on this artificial intelligence to do simple things like math and division and just things that we're, taught to know and should know, but they're relying so heavily on this they don't even know.
Right.
And I'm kind of ashamed to even admit this, but we're seeing it even with our kids.
Yeah.
They're always on their phones and doing this, and they're in this digital world, and they're suffering from it. I remember just a couple years ago, my son was starting high school, couldn't even read a clock.
No.
I'm like, dude, are you for real? That's digital, man. Well, that's ancient. Nobody looks at those anymore.
Right.
Can't write in cursive.
Well, that's a good point.
They are dumbing down our kids.
Really, I know. And I think it's because
they
I think psychologically, they want the generations coming up, they want them to be so connected and dependent on their phones, because one day the phone will be inside of you. It will. I mean, when we were talking about earlier, right, that World Economic Forum, the data intermediary, Siri is my intermediary. I have agency over her right now because I have dominion over her, right? But to say when Siri gets into my body, will I really have dominion over Siri at the end of the day, right? And digging into the quantum stuff, the fact that these nanoparticles, 2 to 10 nanometers, they're able to attach to molecular structure and receptor sites everywhere and anywhere in the body. What's not to say our consciousness is not in every part of our body? Like, what's to say our consciousness doesn't even that it doesn't break down to the molecular level, that subatomic level? Like, I think our consciousness does. I think our consciousness is a part of us, right? Our soul is a part of this body. Our mind is a part of this body. Our spirit is a part of this body. And what really kind of made me grasp that concept is listening to a lot of near-death experiences. And the fact that people in their near-death experiences, they're talking about when they have this astral projection, or the fact that they are looking over themselves, they're detached from their body. They say that most of them really talk about that it felt like they left every cell in their body. So,
jeez.
so thinking of that, if we're able to have technology integrate at the conscious quantum level, right? Who's not to say that we now lose agency over our own consciousness, right? So, and that makes me think of the hive mind, right? You have an understanding that the queen is in control pretty much of the horde. And why do we have these zombie movies, right? And especially number one, why are zombies like an altered consciousness state? They have sores all over their bodies. And what changed them was a mark, aka a bite, right? Their DNA, their molecular structure got changed entirely once that virus or whatever it is, entered into the body, got into the circulatory system, and then boom,
Hijack the body.
And I'm like, is the zombie theory connected with Revelation 16 and the judgment, and that those that have the mark of the beast have sores and injuries all over them, and that you can distinguish them for having the mark because of what they're showing? It's like, okay, that's interesting. Why are we making movies about this? And
Right.
why do the zombies target the ones that don't have the bite? Right? It's all interesting. Again, this gets kind of dark because as Christians, we understand that we're going to face persecution one day. We understand we're going to be hated from the world's going to hate us, right? Because we love the truth, we love Christ. And who's not to say that when the abomination of desolation does happen and the sacrificial process in the temple is seized, what's to say that there's it all gets discontinued after that? What I mean is
some people theorize like the whole temple thing is like a Zionist thing. It's the people in the leadership trying to push and make prophecy happen. But I've also heard people, and I kind of lean toward this because, Christ came and abolished the law. No one could live the law because you had to be perfect. So he come and fulfilled the law for us and put us under a new covenant. And we went back to the 10 Commandments because the people failed to realize the law came because of transgression. When they started breaking commandments and doing bad things, they had to systematically approach those and make laws for each one. There was like 600 and something laws. I mean, if you shave your beard, you break the law. There's all kinds of stuff. So all those came because of transgression. So if Christ fulfilled the law, that contract is complete. So then what do? We go back to the original. We reset. We go back to the original. And the original was the 10 Commandments. The only thing that was written by the finger of God, it says. So Jesus came, and so we got the Cadillac. Why the hell would we go back to the Datsun?
Yeah.
That's how I see a temple in the sacrificial system. So I think the abomination of desolation ties into exactly what we've been talking about here today, because Christ said, your body is the temple.
Right.
And the Holy Spirit resides within you. So therefore, if you corrupt the image and change your DNA and take this mark, you have defiled the temple. You've proclaimed yourself to be God, because the original lie Satan told us is, ye shall be as gods.
Right.
Take this mark and you'll never die.
Right.
So therefore, the Holy Spirit cannot reside in your temple, because you have already stood in your temple, which is God's temple, and proclaimed yourself as God.
Right.
Right. Right.
I agree.
And what Jesse
100%.
was saying, if these things can pass the blood-brain barrier, who's to say that you can't no longer even make that decision for salvation? Like you won't be able to, in theory, right? You won't be able to accept and believe in the truth. It's too late for you, because the Bible also says, though, that those that have the mark of the beast, like, they're not written in the book of life, right? Like you have made that final decision, per se.
Right. Here's another interesting new thing. Speaking about blood, have you guys heard of the Japanese research team that just created synthetic blood that's like universal? It's like purple. Have you heard about that? Either of you?
No. Go ahead. Please do tell.
So okay, I didn't know if you were paused. So yeah, just this year, a Japanese research team developed a synthetic blood product with a distinctive purple color. This artificial blood, created by encasing hemoglobin in a synthetic shell, is designed to be universal. So if you go to the hospital, you can take this blood, but it's encased in this synthetic shell. So you can, it doesn't matter your blood type. So you could, and they're all talking, it's, it sounds like a good thing, but what really is it? Are they like, are you going to be changed? Like, it just sounds so sketchy to me, going on the whole mark of the beast topic with that.
Yeah. It's funny too. The movie Transformers, like when you look at the that movie and what they're made of, it's like they're made of all of these graphene quantum dots, right? And they get their power to evolutionize from the allspark, right? And it's like they can materialize even more, is what I mean by evolution, once they receive more power from the allspark. Imagine like, a little transformer the size of my wedding ring. You put it in front of the allspark gives it more energy, and it transforms into an Optimus Prime, right?
Right.
As an example. But that's the alchemical change that these occultists, that these people that are running the world believe in. They believe in this. Number one, they believe in the phoenix. Number one, I don't believe that the bird that represents our country is an eagle. When you get into Manly P. Hall's book, The Secret Destiny of America, it talks about in there that number one, not only is the one ruling over this country Lucifer, but number two, that bird is not really an eagle, yet it's a phoenix. And phoenixes are that symbol of that alchemical process, almost like Shiva, right? There's destruction.
It's also blasphemous. It's a blaspheme to Christ, because what did Christ do? He died, resurrected, and was in his eternal glorified state body. So that's what this bird is mimicking. It dies, and from its ashes, it resurrects bigger, better, stronger, and better.
Yeah, and that's where you get all of these apotheosis rituals. You look at Washington, D.C., you have the dome, the obelisk. Every 4 years, we inaugurate a president. And that president technically goes through an apotheosis ritual where they're in their dead state, and they go down into the underworld, and they come back up not as themselves. Remember, they stay there in a way, and they come back as the old god, right? The Nimrod, the Osiris, all of that stuff.
And they're mimicking Egypt. Egypt,
exactly.
They believed the king was the conduit for the god to inhabit, and they would do the same rituals. And it talks about the phallus and the dome of Isis. Right. That's why we have all that in Washington, D.C., and that empty tomb underneath. It's a death and resurrection, because it's a new man with this god they called to, embodied our leader.
Well, it's actually, and it's like an inversion, right? It's like reincarnation is the inversion of resurrection. And I find that so interesting, because the devil always inverts and copyrights and flips things that God has created and has intended. And what I mean by that is Christ resurrected. He took up his own life, right? He is the same thing that was before he died and after he died, right? Same person, same entity. And reincarnation is something different. It's where you die, but it's something else living in your body after it's raised up again. And that's why we see in the Bible where, you get the Antichrist, he takes a fatal head wound, right? He is, and then is again, or something like that, but basically signifying this apotheosis ritual to where he is. And now the Bible says where he is fully reincarnated, like Satan in the flesh, right? Satan's got to take a body. And there's so many movies out there that really show this. For example, the X-Men movie in the beginning, or specifically X-Men Apocalypse, in the beginning of the movie, they're in ancient Egypt, and the one mutant that rules over all of the other mutants is getting old, and he needs a new body. And so they took a slave, and they're working on this conscious transfer. They're working on transferring the conscious from the mutant, the main mutant, over to the slave body who is dead. And in this process, it's funny, there's a light from the sun that shoots at the top of the pyramid and sends gold, liquefied gold, down into the burial chambers down there where they are, right? Because they're in the crypt, right? This is like the underworld part of the Apotheosis ritual. And the gold, which number one is specific with alchemy, the gold goes, wraps itself around the mutant, and then wraps itself around the slave, and that consciousness is transferred through the gold into the new body. And then it's the reincarnation, pretty much.
It's funny because gold is a great conductor.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And again, I think of, Doc, when you were on our show, you brought up, and by the way, folks, that's episode 38. Go check it out. But, you bring up these garments. I'm really wondering if the garments have something to do with the alchemical process in this ritual that they want to try and complete. Now, I don't know if it has to do with the garments or the Ark of the Covenant or something, but we know that they're trying to pursue these things, these ancient artifacts of the Bible. I mean, you have the Hillary Clinton emails talking about that they are trying to find the tombs of Gilgamesh, and that they did find the tomb of Gilgamesh. Why are they trying to find Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh is easily relatable to Nimrod. Well, why are they trying to find Nimrod? What are they trying to take? What instructions are they trying to retrieve from the old days to bring into our day today so that they can have this new empire of old? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, they're just doing what Nimrod did. He was building the Tower of Babel, trying to tap into these fallen angels and free them from their prison, or if not free them, at least extract the knowledge to return the human race back to the golden age.
Yeah,
that's what they want when gods walked amongst men.
Seriously, and I wonder what that's to look like. I wonder if we are being set up for that, a return of some sort. We talk about it on the show where there's theories that these things are going to come here and take an Avenger style, look where they want to be the optics of things. They want savior. Yes, they're saviors, right? And in all of those movies, what is the enemy? The enemy seems to resemble what God would be coming back to pour his judgment. Right, it's like the movie The Avengers, Thanos, right? Exactly, right. The Rapture. He takes half the population of the entire universe, and the fact that even Thanos in that movie called himself "I am." Well, where do we see that in the Bible? That's what God calls himself, right?
He said, "I am inevitable."
Yeah, yeah. But every Christian was like, "Up." Like that Leonardo DiCaprio little gif or whatever.
I love that.
Oh, man. But you know what? With all this talk and everything, I really want to share an encouraging message to the people. I want to...
Yeah, I was about to say, let's close it out on a good note.
Yeah. Like, I want to encourage everyone that, what we talked about, I'm not dogmatic on it, and it might not be true. But there's a lot of things that ground it, to be what it is. But we have a life to live. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And no matter how dark the world may get, no matter how stressful it may get, right? I mean, we're Americans. We know how stressful it is, especially at the teeter-tottering on the low to medium class of middle class, right? But anyway, I mean, for me at least, but let's love, let's have fun, let's keep God in our minds, right? And and let's just try to build relationships with people. Let's try to build more friendships, right? Let's try to help people, you know. And I think if all of us can really narrow our lifestyles down to maybe just those few things, I think it just benefits not ourselves but others. And that's my little positive message.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed that. The Biblical Hitmen, everybody. Anywhere you can consume content, you can find these fine gentlemen, and I'll be sure to have some links in the description, and I'll tag them in the description on YouTube so you can click and find their channel. Great content, great guys. As you can see, they're missing their third wheel, but they are well-researched guys. They're well-balanced guys, and I've told them many times, I said, you guys all have different puzzle pieces. You have some researchers, you have some comedy, and then you have the tattooed face Taylor, man.
Yeah. And he's really the nicest guy out of all of us, which is crazy.
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
But shout out to Taylor and Doc. I appreciate you for inviting us on your platform. This is a beautiful platform. This is a well-known platform. You deserve everything that you worked hard for. And, you know, it's more or less, you know, I'll meet you up there, brother. I'll meet you at the top. You know, I'm behind you. That's right.
Hand out. I'll help you up, man.
Let's go. Let's go. But I again, appreciate you giving us your time, and, you know, hope to get you back on our show and talk about some awesome things. And, you know, me and you, we're going to SpiracyCon. That's going to be a lot of fun. And if you want to hear Doc speak, make sure you go ahead and check out his links, and he's been promoting it as well. So, but again, brother, appreciate you. Love you, man.
Hey,
yeah,
man,
appreciate you
guys,
Doc.
man. Like I said in the beginning, I wasn't saying it because it sounded cool. You guys are my brother from another mother.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. You know, we're actually doing a show with you, and I was listening to you 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, man. It's really crazy how, you know, the possibilities in life are endless if you put your heart and your mind and to the goals you want to get done, you know. And I know that sounded really weird, but listen, just if nothing's impossible. If you want to do something, get up off your tail and go do it, and have a purpose behind everything you do, and have fun with it.
Absolutely. You know, I thought it was so funny. I was saying when we went to the Airbnb with Doc, we're sitting down on the patio, and I'm just like, it's so weird, because I was infatuated with the Epic of Esau during the Tinfoil Hat podcast when I first heard him. And while I was driving, working, just to think that I'd be in an Airbnb with this guy like 2 years later, it was it's just weird, you know. But we did it. We're here. We're putting in the work. And of course, Doc, thank you for having us, brother. It was awesome.
No, I appreciate you guys, man. I love y'all. Your brothers, your family.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Be sure to check out their stuff and the Biblical Hitman, everybody. Hey, just remember, till next time, the difference between the known and the unknown is the journey. So good journey, guys.